Senator Smith.
Thank you very much, Mr Acting Deputy President. Let me start by saying that I have a great deal of sympathy for Senator Brown from Tasmania and Senator Gallagher from South Australia. To have been dragged into this chamber to defend the indefensible this afternoon took great courage. I have never heard a more lacklustre, a more lazy, a more lame, a more loose defence of any government decision than this decision.
Order. Resume your seat. Senator Brown.
I object to Senator Smith if he was misrepresenting my contribution here today.
There is no point of order. Senator Smith.
Mr Acting Deputy President, I've never seen a more lame, lacklustre, lazy, loose defence of any government decision in the 13 months that I've been in this Senate than I have this afternoon. Unless I have heard it incorrectly, Mr Acting Deputy President, I don't think I heard the word fairness. I don't think I heard the word fair go. I don't think I heard the word democratic values. I don't think I heard the word integrity from any of the speakers on the other side in regards to this particular matter. That is a shameful, shameful exercise in our democracy. We heard Labor senators talk about the government's prerogative to fund the campaign. Well, I want to hear about the government's responsibility to fund the campaign equally. We heard about Labor senators defending the decision to allocate funding based solely on the decision of the House of Representatives. Labor senators could not even defend their own role in the democratic process.
Order. Resume your seat. Senator Collins, you're aware that understanding Order 197 is disorderly to interrupt except to call attention to a quorum, privilege or a point of order. Senator Smith.
Labor senators also talked about facts and myths. Let me share one fact, and it was reported in the Australian newspaper on Tuesday the 18th of June, just yesterday, by Christian Kerr. It said, a row has erupted as a brief by the West Australian local government emerged containing the admission that refining the Constitution will create a slightly broader head of power for the federal government, but omits to mention grants would be tied. Let me share another myth. This is the second chapter in this great deceit. The first chapter in this deceit is the decision not to fund equally the yes and no campaigns. The second chapter in this deceit is to set up the referendum task force unit using $1.6 billion of Australian taxpayers' money. Not a secret, it was in the Senate estimates process. It was in the Senate estimates process, and when I challenged the government to give me a guarantee that this $1.6 million sub-branch of the Yes campaign would not be used to promote just one side of the argument, this is what I was told. The official said, we would be providing the normal support to the minister on a range of tasks. Senator Smith asks, but you are the referendum task force unit. To an outside observer, it could look like you are becoming an advocate for the referendum proposal. Is that true, Senator Smith asks? So is the $1.6 million being allocated to advocate for the referendum? The task force unit, says the official, is there to provide support to the government to deliver the referendum. The official goes on to say, the task force, as I said, is a part of the department. So in the same way as the department is established to serve the requirements of the government, so is the referendum task force. We in the task force will implement government policy which is to facilitate the running of a referendum. This deceit does not have one chapter, it has two, and that's what we know today. What will we know tomorrow? I think it's worth just comparing for a moment what the government's decision earlier this week means. So we know $10 million for the Yes campaign and $500,000 for the No campaign. Let me just add that money does not necessarily mean you have the most convincing argument. But if we were to look at the 1974 referendum on the same issue and look at the national vote that was achieved for both the Yes and No campaigns, this is what the funding allocation would look like. It would look much fairer. $4.6 million for the Yes campaign and $5.3 million for the No campaign. If we look at the 1988 referendum result, what answer do we get? We get $3.3 million for the Yes campaign and $6.6 million for the No campaign. Integral to this process should be integrity, and integral to that must be fairness. So when I asked the government at the Senate estimates process, can you guarantee that the process will be fair? That's what Senator Lundy had to say. It's certainly our intention, Senator, to have a fair process. I cannot be any more specific than the officers, but we will do what we can to make sure it's a fair process. Senator Smith asked, great, so fairness means that you will guarantee that the activities of the referendum task force, Senator Lundy interjects, no, I will not say anything specific, but I'm telling you it is in the intention of the government to make this a fair process. This was the debate on the 30th of May. So you cannot be specific, Senator Smith asks. Senator Lundy says, no. Senator Smith says, you cannot specifically guarantee fairness. Senator Lundy says, I'm happy to take that on notice. Took it on notice on the 30th of May, and then at the beginning of this week, Australians found out that what they were doing was not enshrining fairness, but damaging the fabric of our democratic process. There's much to be ashamed of in this Labor government, but surely this must be the most shameful moment. There is a redeeming feature. This particular element of this particular debate has kept the referendum secret no more. And Australians will now be forced to examine the facts, and the facts will speak to them very, very clearly about this particular matter. Labor cannot be trusted to govern our country. Australians should not trust them to change the Constitution. That is as clear as it can be, as clear as it can get. The bipartisanship that has often been talked about is close to tatters, and it should be. The good faith of many people has been breached. The good faith of the Leader of the Opposition, the good faith of the Senate. I think it's now time for the Australian Local Government Association and the West Australian Local Government Association to distance themselves from this particular element of the campaign and call now for equal funding of the Yes and No campaign. That is the right thing to do, that is the fair thing to do, and it's in keeping with the Australian character.